न गणेश कौ करुणया कोपी न कंथासितो गोपी भावरसामृताभिलहरी कल्लोलमग्नोन्मुहो वन्दे रूप सनातन रघुजुगं श्रीजीव गोपालकौ कृष्ण कीर्तन कानन तन परं प्रेमामृतं बनिधि कृष्ण कीर्तन कानन तन परं प्रेमामृतं बनिधि कुजत कोकिलहंस संसार सुगण कीर्णे मयूराकुले नाना रत्न निबद्ध मूल विटप श्रीयुक्त वृंदावने राधा कृष्ण महर्निशं प्रव्रजतौ जीवार्थदौ जौ बुधा वन्दे रूप सनातन रघुजुगं श्रीजीव गोपालकं कृष्ण कीर्तन गानन तन परं प्रेमामृतं बनिधि धीराधीर जनप्रियं प्रियकरं निर्मत्सरं पूजितं शङ्खापूर्वक नामगाननतिभिः कालावसानिकृतं निद्राहार विहारकादिविदितं चत्तन्तौ दीनौ च जं शङ्खापूर्वक नामगाननतिभिः कालावसानिकृतं निद्राहार विहारकादिविदितं चत्तन्तौ दीनौ च जं गोपी भावरसामृता दिलहरी कल्लोलमग्नोन्मुहो वन्दे रूप सनातन रघुजुगं श्रीजीव गोपालकं कृष्ण कीर्तन गानन तन परं प्रेमामृतं बनिधि कृष्ण कीर्तन गानन तन परं राधा पुण्यतटे कलिन्दतनयातिरे च वंशी वटे प्रेमन्माधव सादसे सदसया ग्रस्तौ प्रमत्तौ सदा राधा पुण्यतटे कलिन्दतनयातिरे च वंशी वटे प्रेमन्माधव सादसे सदसया ग्रस्तौ प्रमत्तौ सदा राधा कृष्ण गुणस्मिते मधुरिमा नंदेन मोहितौ वन्दे रूप सनातन रघुजुगं श्रीजीव गोपालकं कृष्ण कीर्तन गानन तन परं प्रेमामृतं बनिधि धीराधीर जनप्रियं प्रियकरं निर्मत्सनं पूजितौ श्री चैतन्य कृपाभरौ भुवि भुव भारावहन्तारकं वन्दे रूप सनातन रघुजगं श्रीजीव गोपालकं श्रीरा
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Your time zone and where you live in this material world. And we welcome you to our sadhana program of the Prabhupada Disciples Association, Hare Krishna Society. Yes, sadhana. And we have 3 classes a week, like Prabhupada did when he first started his mission in New York. He was giving class 3 times a week. And so we also coincidentally have ended up with 3 classes a week. Well, of course, they're based on the different shastra or scripture that we present, Bhagavad Gita as it is today, tomorrow Srimad Bhagavatam class, and on Thursdays for now, and we may switch back to Wednesday for our class, since it's already listed in our advertisement and on cards that we created to promote these classes to other people. I have 1,000 of these cards myself that Bhakta Joe Felice provided for us here in Hamilton, and other people have printed them and used them for distribution to other people so that new people can get an understanding of the real philosophy that Prabhupada taught by the system of hearing. And the hearing is specific to unedited, unadulterated, unchanged books that he produced during his manifested presence. And here Krishna Katha has got a picture of them, these Delhi Bhagavatams, and there's his hands up. I guess you're dancing and chanting. It's good to see you, Prabhu. So this is a sadhana program. And along with the sadhana program, if people are interested in initiation, they can also chant their rounds, and they can follow the 4 regulative principles. And at the same time, they can devote themselves to the mission of Srila Prabhupada to protect his divine legacy in his sound vibration, not vapu, the so-called principle of personal association, which is predominant in other groups. They're more interested in the vapu, the personal, human form of that of an individual rather than the transcendental form of the spiritual master in sound vibration. And we have thousands of verses to support that. Somehow or other, we had a fellow here the other day, he couldn't seem to connect the dots and understand what we were saying. He was some kind of neophyte fellow that showed up here and asked all kinds of stupid questions. Okay, you can ask them. We had already explained it, but this is going on. There are so many insane people in this world. We saw that yesterday. And I wanted to go first to a section of the Krishna book. As you know, we're moving ahead with different books simultaneously while we're studying. All of us have reading programs. And I'm always fascinated on the brilliance of Srila Prabhupada in how he can articulate in a few words the whole truth of the matter of life. And if anybody can hear that, it'll liberate him. And I have an interesting story to tell you after this. So I'll go to it. It's in the introduction of the Krishna book. And by the way, everyone, just look at this. See this? This is a Krishna book. I put the cover, I took it off the book because I'm preserving this book. It was given to me from a friend of mine. And it is an original book. This is an original book. It was owned by some Christian guy who turned it into a bookstore. And it's a 1974 edition, the second printing. Oh, there's my computer flipped off. So this is one of the unadulterated, unchanged books. I have an original here. Somehow or other you get these treasures. I got one in Mexico the other day, or the last time I was down there too. A beautiful Bhagavad Gita 72 edition that a friend of ours gave me as a present. And it's very treasured by myself. I bought a beautiful box to hold it in. I'll show it to you sometime in the future. But let's read this section here. I thought it was very important. Prabhupada says, liberated souls have no interest in material activities. No interest. Here we are. There we go. Pastimes, liberated souls. Just slide down there. Thank you. Rupa Goswami Prabhu, who's in Bombay, thank you. Liberated souls have no interest in material activities. None. What does that mean? Just quickly, do we really care about the meeting with Donald Trump and Mr. Zelensky yesterday, which is the biggest story in the world right now? And so many devotees are commenting on Facebook about it. Oh, this and that and blah, blah, blah. Liberated souls have no interest in materialistic activities, period. The impersonalist theory that after liberation, one becomes inactive and needs hear nothing does not prove that a liberated person is actually inactive. A living soul cannot be inactive, excuse me. A living soul cannot be inactive, yes. The spiritual energy, the soul is always active. He is either active in the conditioned state or in the liberated state, marginal energy. A diseased person, for example, is also active, but his activities are all painful. Very interesting. The same person, when freed from the disease condition, is still active, but in the healthy condition, the activities are full of pleasure. Similarly, the impersonalists manage to get freed from the diseased conditional activities, but they have no information of activities in the healthy condition. Those who are actually liberated and in full knowledge take to hearing the activities of Krishna. Such engagement is pure spiritual activity. Connect the dots. That's why we always stress the Vani incarnation of Srila Prabhupada. Because when you hear from him, that is pure spiritual activity, transcendental. So the hearing principle is the basis of bhakti yoga. Devotee sees through his ears, not his eyes, everyone. And it's interesting, I had an interesting conversation with Krishna Kishore, who's on the class this morning. It's Sri Chaitanya Sampradaya, that's his group in Mexico. So I was talking to him, and I asked him to come down I'm going to Mexico, everybody, to help our friend Gopal, who's in a serious health condition. Yes, suddenly he's been stricken with cancer, and we're going there to help him. And I called Krishna Kishore, and I asked him if he would join us, because he has a group of about 50 devotees that he's developed, maybe more. He can give me a bit more information, and I can tell all of you, he's an active preacher in Mexico, and a really strict, him and his wife especially, they're a strict sadhanas, bhaktas. And they're preaching all the time. They're publishing books, and we're including them in a master plan that we're doing globally for creating books and selling them. But at any rate, he told me an interesting story, Yashodanandana Prabhu, of how he came to Krishna consciousness, Ram Raghava. That when he first found Krishna consciousness, it was in a Prabhupada book. And he read it. And as soon as he read it, he said, this is how I'm going to become God conscious, himself, within himself. And he never associated with a devotee for over a year. All he did was he got books, and he read the books, what few books there were in Spanish, and that inspired him to become Krishna conscious. Just by the Vani incarnation, by the sound of Prabhupada's words in his transcendental literatures. So here's a practical, real example of how this is a potent way to spread Krishna consciousness, not by other concoctions. People love to concoct, Michael, Dylan? They love to speculate. Oh yeah, I think I'm going to be this. And it's interesting to note a lot of these God brothers of ours, I see them on the air. I study what's going on, and I'm sure most of you do, how they preach. And it's interesting to note, they never promote Prabhupada as the guru in Vani incarnation. It's them as the guru. Oh, I'm the guru. Come and join me. I'll help you go back to Godhead. We have a huge volume of information from Srila Prabhupada in his books, but do they tell people, study them? No. They tell, study me. I'll tell you. This is mental speculation, and this is misinformation. We call it the ISKCON deep state of misinformation. Very bad, but that's another story. So we're going down, by the way, we're going to Casa Goloka, which is where our friend Gopal is. He created this situation there. Pier Angelo, good to see you in Switzerland. And Haribo. And I asked Krishna Kishore, Yashodanandana Prabhu, to come over because him and his wife are very eager to always chant Hare Krishna. When they came to the Casa Goloka last visit, they chanted for 5 hours, Ram Raghava. 5 hours. They chanted out in the yard, and they chanted under the main building, and just happily performed kirtan and created a very transcendental atmosphere. And this is, I wanted them to come over, and they're coming over, Krishna Katha Prabhu, on our invitation, I said, please, I'm coming to Mexico on the 3rd, come over. And he called me just now, like I said, and he's coming over with his wonderful wife and some of their devotees, and we're going to have kirtan for some days there to help Gopal revive his health materially, and in the event of an unfortunate situation, prepare him to go to another situation which will enable him to go back to Godhead. Because this is the business of the spirit soul, to remember Krishna at these serious times, to focus on it, and the devotees should come together and chant and give them this blessing of transcendental sound. I'm going to read the scriptures. I had another situation, Yashodanandana, years ago with me and Drupada, where we had a friend, Vishnu Tattva, who you know, and he was Mr. Ontario. He had muscles, and he was a great devotee. He moved to Vrindavan just before Prabhupada's departure, and he became the house manager at Vrindavan. When he came to my office in Toronto, he said, well, should I go to India? I said, yeah, go. Sell everything, get out of here. And he was blessed. He was the last person to get initiated by Prabhupada as a second initiation, a Brahminical initiation. And he carried Prabhupada's palanquin, as you know, Yashoda, around Vrindavan. He was Mr. Ontario. So he got a lot of mercy and blessings. And we kept up our association for over 40 years. I helped him get his initiation with him and his wife. When I was president, Prabhupada had asked me to find people that were qualified and recommend them for initiation. And then he had me perform the fire sacrifice. Prabhupada did. So we do the same thing with this group that we're expanding. And we understand the principle of Ritvik. A lot of these people don't have a clue. They never did it when Prabhupada was here, and the other people that are our God brothers, they're doing it for their own personal benefit. And this hoax goes on. But anyway, the point is this, that Vishnu Tattva also got very sick. Yes, Ram Raghava, he got very sick. And myself and Drupada, he was in the hospital. He was almost passed away in the room. And myself and Drupada drove up to Sudbury. Now, if none of you know what Sudbury is, but it's up north. It's a long way. It's a big journey. I went up to Wyerton, and then we got on the boat, and we went this, and we went there. And we went in the hospital. He had all the, Ram Raghava, you're a doctor, you know, he had all the wires in his arm and the tubes up his nose and this and that. And he looked really bad, and everybody was in the room. There was a group of us, and Drupada and I got there, and I went in and I sat down, and I started reading Chaitanya Charitamrita to him. I just, no formality, I just sat, you know, I'm somewhat aggressive in a certain way. And I went in and I started reading Chaitanya Charitamrita to him. And we read for hours. And he was there. He couldn't speak. He was immobilized. And we read and read. And we went back the next day and we read and we chanted japa and we chanted kirtan. And guess what happened, Ram Raghava? He revived. He became revived and he left the hospital. From death, he became revived by hearing. Okay. And I kept track of him. And Yashoda knows Vishnu Tattva very well, when he was in Canada. And they were very devoted Prabhupada disciples. He might tell a story about it. I kept track of him. We were trying to get things going, and before I met my dear godbrother Yashoda, and then we rolled up this program by Krishna's arrangement. But we had been trying for years to get something going because all of us are isolated. A lot of people feel isolated and on their own. You're not on your own if you join our sadhana program. Know that. You can come to the classes on time, like I mentioned. This is not for people when you feel like it. Show up on time. Stay to the end, please. That's discipline. That shows seriousness. And if you have to go, we understand because, sometimes you have to go to the store or whatever, or the appointment. But nonetheless, try your best. So at any rate, the whole thing is that Krishna consciousness is still available to us. And Vishnu Tattva, eventually, about 8 months later, he was 70 years old. He used to bench press 300, he used to bench press, excuse me, everybody, 1 second. He used to bench press 300 pounds at 70 years of age. And I used to tell him, Prabhu, maybe it'd be better if you didn't bench press. But somehow he couldn't, at that age, it wasn't a good idea. And eventually he was out on the street and he dropped on the street and died in the street. And he called his wife just before his departure and told her that he would be fine and that she should just take shelter of Krishna for the rest of her life. So very interesting stories about the potency of association with good devotees, bona fide devotees. And that's the story of this group. We're associating with all of you because you're so sincere, Vijaya Pandit. Very sincere and committed. And there is no confusion like this fellow that came on the chat the other day. Oh, this guy and that. You don't listen. You don't want to hear, go somewhere else. That's as simple as it is. If you want to hear Prabhupada's books, you come to these programs and you relish the transcendental bliss, Ananda, Satchit Ananda, by association with the pure devotee. Correct, Michael Dillon? Am I correct? Thank you. I called upon him because he's so enthusiastic. You look fantastic, Prabhu. Thank you. Maybe you can shave your beard if you want. Haribo. Just joking. Okay, so we'll go ahead with the chanting of Jaya Radha Madhava, and then we'll have the wonderful class with our senior godbrother, a real Shiksha guru in our group. He may be embarrassed that I'm saying that. He's very humble, but we should know that we have people here that know what they're talking about Dharma Bhavana. And people that are ready to listen, we want them. And those who want to compromise, there's the door. Goodbye. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Sai.
Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Jaya Radha Punya Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava
सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय, नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद से अद्वैत गदाधर शिवास आदि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गौ गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरिवर्धन की जय, वृंदावन धाम की जय, नवद्वीप धाम की जय, स्वामी तो भक्तवृंद की जय, गंगा माई की जय, जमुना माई की जय, तुलसी देवी की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, स्वामी तो भक्तवृंद की जय। All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. Thank you very much.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord, Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you from Srimad Bhagavatam 1:1:1. Narayanam namaskrityam Narayanam namaskrityam Naram cheva narottamam Naram cheva narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Tato Jayam Udirayet. One should utter the means of conquest, Srimad Bhagavatam and Srimad Bhagavad Gita, after offering respectful obeisances, 1, to the personality of Godhead Narayana, 2, to the Naranarayana Rishi, who is the supermost human being. 3, to the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning. Then 4, to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. From Srimad Bhagavatam 1-4. Welcome everyone to this reading and discussion on Srimad Bhagavad Gita. As we do every week, we will recite a few Sanskrit verses which were introduced by Srila Prabhupada himself when he started lecturing in New York in early February of 1966. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shigurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Gunatan Anvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Scha E Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Somebody recently asked me, why is it that you and Vishakarma are always talking about original books and original Vani and Vani incarnation, and that you're reading from the non-edited, non-interpolated books? Why do you always keep saying that? Because it's important. That's why at the beginning, every one of our reading and discussions, we clearly mentioned that this reading, especially on Bhagavad Gita, is being conducted on the basis of the original 1972 non-edited, non-adulterated, non-interpolated Bhagavad Gita authorized by Srila Prabhupada, with all the purports, synonyms, and translations by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness Movement. And this is very important, both in the Sri Vaishnava and Madhva Sampradaya, the older Vaishnava Sampradayas on this planet. They have the greatest of respect for their founder Acharyas, Samstapaka Acharyas. And whenever they have any kind of explanation of Vedanta Sutra or a Bhagavad Gita, they pay homage to their great acharyas. And this is what we are humbly trying to do with our recitation of verses and everything else. We will proceed with our reading this week. We are reading from chapter 12, text number 18 and 19. Samashatro chamitricha tatamana pamana yoho shitoshna sukadukeshu samah sangha vivarjitaha tulyaninda stutirmani santushto yenakena chit aniketaha stita stiramatir bhaktiman me priyo naraha samaha equal shatrau to the enemy cha also mitre to friends cha also tata so mana honor apamana yoho dishonor shita cold ushna heat sukha happiness dukkeshu distress tamaha equipoise sangha vivarjitaha free from all association tulya equal ninda defamation stutihi repute mauni silent santushtaha satisfied yena somehow kena or other chit if aniketaha having no residence stira fixed matihi determination bhaktiman engage in devotion me my priyaha dear naraha a man. Translation: one who is, by Srila Prabhupada, one who is equal to friends and enemies, who is equiposed in honor and dishonor, heat and cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy, who is always free from contamination, always silent and satisfied with anything, who doesn't care for any residence, who is fixed in knowledge and engaged in devotional service, is very dear to me. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. A devotee is always free from all bad association. Sometimes one is praised and sometimes one is defamed. That is the nature of human society. But a devotee is always transcendental to artificial fame and infamy, distress or happiness. He is very patient. He does not speak of anything but the topics about Krishna. Therefore, he is called silent. Silent doesn't mean that one should not speak. Silent means that one should not speak nonsense. One should speak only of essentials. And the most essential speech for the devotee is to speak of the Supreme Lord. He is happy in all conditions. Sometimes he may get very palatable foodstuffs, sometimes not, but he is satisfied. Nor does he care for any residential facility. He may sometimes live underneath a tree, and he may sometimes live in a very palatial building. He is attracted to neither. He's called fixed because he's fixed in his determination and knowledge. We may find some repetition in the description of the qualifications of a devotee, but this is just to give an illustration of the fact that a devotee must acquire all these qualifications. Without good qualifications, one cannot be a pure devotee. One who is not a devotee has no good qualification. One who wants to be recognized as a devotee should develop the good qualifications. Of course, he does not extraneously endeavor to acquire these qualifications, but engagement in Krishna consciousness and devotional service automatically helps him develop them. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhakti Vedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Bhagavad Bandhanam Khadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadatehi Visheshatah Adadana Srinam Danteridam Yache Punah Punah Srimadrupa Padam Bhoja Dhulishyam Janma Janmani Amsho Bhagavatosmyaham Sadada so asmi sarabata tat kripa pikshako nityam tat prishta chadakaromishvam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. There's a very interesting story which took place in India in the mid-1970s. As we know, Srila Prabhupada in India introduced a program of making life members. These were people who were sympathetic to the tenets of the Krishna consciousness movement, but they were living at home with wife and family, children, business, jobs, and everything else, much like what we have nowadays with most devotees. So one sannyasi went in Bombay to see a very wealthy man, and he requested him to make a life member. So this man insisted that he wanted to feed the sannyasi some dal and chapatis and some very nice food stuff. So he fed the devotee, and he told this sannyasi, in my estimation, a real sadhu is somebody who doesn't put ghee on his chapatis. Oh, really? And when this story came back to Prabhupada laughed. He said, so his idea is that if you put ghee on the chapati, you're not a sadhu. And if you do not put ghee on the chapati, you are a sadhu. And Prabhupada says, that means this person has no idea whatsoever what is a sadhu. And we see in these kind of verses in the Srimad Bhagavatam, what is a sadhu? What is a devotee? What are the qualifications? Now, this is very important because sometimes we will be confronted, and I know our good friend Neil Sharma in Florida several times have brought up this point, quoting from Srila Prabhupada explaining Praptasya Kalyana Gunarnavasya, the prayer to the spiritual master that we sing every morning. There's very nice explanation from Srila Prabhupada that the pure Vaishnava, the bona fide sadhu, the authorized spiritual master, is especially empowered, that he's gotten that mercy from the ocean of mercy from Lord Krishna himself. Why? Because he's endowed with all transcendental qualities. Just the other day, a devotee sent me a little clip from Facebook, and he asked my thoughts. It was an explanation with a picture of Srila Prabhupada. What does it mean to be a spiritual person? And Prabhupada was explaining in lecture that a spiritually advanced person, a spiritually realized person, does not have a material body, that his body is surcharged with spiritual energy. is completely transcendental to the material energy. Now, all of us, especially those of us who've had experience, direct experience with Srila Prabhupada, we have seen Srila Prabhupada be completely transcendental. Sometimes Prabhupada was offered very, very big feast. I remember on one occasion in Los Angeles, that was a celebration of his Guru Maharaj, his divine grace, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, and devotees had prepared this massive, I'm speaking of massive feast that would probably require one or two of these large coffee tables to put all the food stuff on. Everything had been offered nicely. So they brought this to Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada took a little piece of sweet. And we thought that Prabhupada was going to start eating and all the rice and chapatis and dal, the kachoris, the samosas. Nope. Prabhupada just took a little piece and said, distribute to everybody. And at other times, Prabhupada would take very nicely, full meal. But Prabhupada was not attached. He was completely transcendental. In 1970 in Los Angeles, Srila Prabhupada explained to one manager, the difference between you and me is that if you were in a room with 10 attractive women, you would be highly agitated, whereas I would not feel any agitation. That is the position of a fully realized pure devotee. Now, this is very important because we see when we study the Srimad Bhagavatam, and I'm going to read from a certain section which relates to this specific verse, these two specific verses from Bhagavad Gita. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam, canto number 6, chapter 15, text number 7. Canto number 3, chapter 15, text number 7. Srila Prabhupada explained, a person whose senses and mind are always engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord has no possibility of engaging in material activities. The devotees of the Lord are not defeated anywhere in the universe. It is stated, Narayana Paraha Sarve. One who is Narayana Para, or a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is not afraid anywhere, whether he is sent to hell or promoted to heaven. From Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 17, Text 28. Now, the actual text from Canto 6, Chapter 17, Text 28, maybe we could reproduce that verse here. See what we have. Can any one of you, Neil Sharma, Ram Raghava, put that verse on the screen? Oh, Rupa Goswami, thank you. Okay, this is the same Sanskrit verse. Go down to the translation. Devotees totally engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayana never fear any condition of life. For them, the heavenly planets, liberation, and the hellish planets are all the same. For such devotees are interested only in the service of the Lord. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Parvati might naturally have inquired how devotees become so exalted. Therefore, this verse explains that they are Narayana Para, simply dependent on Narayana. They do not mind reverses in life because in the service of Narayana, they have learned to tolerate whatever hardships there may be. They do not care whether they are in heaven or in hell. They simply engage in the service of the Lord. This is their excellence. Anukulyena Krishna Anusilanam. They are liberally engaged in the service of the Lord, and therefore they are excellent. By using the word Britya Brityanam, Lord Shiva pointed out that although Chitraketu provided one example of tolerance and excellence, all the devotees who have taken shelter of the Lord as eternal servants are glorious. They have no eagerness to be happy by being placed in the heavenly planets, becoming liberated, or becoming one with Brahman, the supreme effulgence. These benefits do not appeal to their minds. They're simply interested in giving direct service to the Lord. Now, this is very important because we see that all these exalted qualities are fully manifested in the activities and in the transcendental pastimes of Srila Prabhupada, a fully realized, authorized, pure devotee. Because we do know from Prabhupada's teachings that he sometimes explains that a sadhana siddha is the same as a nitya siddha. Nitya siddha means personalities who come from the spiritual world to deliver the message of Lord Krishna. Whereas a sadhana siddha is one who becomes perfect by the practice of devotional service. Now, Srila Prabhupada several times says that once one reaches the perfection, it is the same, but the reality is that there's still a distinction. It is a very special position. Personalities like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and Srila Prabhupada are all Nitya Siddha who came from the spiritual world. And one has to be very, very careful when we look at the activities of such personalities, when we look at the behavior of such personalities, not to let the material conditioning enter our thoughts when we look at the activities of such persons. Because somebody recently asked me, well, why is it that you people are engaged in some of your discussion in this booklet, Lilamrita Review, where you seem to be criticizing some of the writings of other great devotees? And basically, our attitude is we're not criticizing. We are explaining Srila Prabhupada's position from his own transcendental words, which is simply the message that he has received in disciplic succession from the great predecessor acharyas. And this is a very important point, because when it comes to understanding the position of a Nitya Siddha, it is not a matter of opinion. It has nothing to do with one's managerial position. It has to do with proper hearing from authorities. This is very important. Just like we are reading this verse about the exalted qualities of such a personality, a person who is actually beyond the modes of nature. Because we keep hearing this in every chapter of Bhagavad Gita, all throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam, that devotees are transcendental. But sometimes we personally do not feel transcendental. And that is the difference between the fully realized Nitya Siddha and a sadhaka who is still struggling to control his mind. Prabhupada used to often quote his Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, who said, when you get up in the morning, beat your mind with shoes 100 times. Do not let your mind mislead you. Same message is there in the Bhagavad Gita. Same message. And this is the process that Prabhupada has given. What is amazing about Srila Prabhupada, because if any one of you has ever visited India or lived in India, you see that there are so many different sadhus. For example, in Vrindavan, in 1977, Prabhupada complained that even in Vrindavan, which is the land of Krishna, there are so many Mayavadis. Infiltration of Mayavadis everywhere. And Prabhupada requested one of his leading managers, make sure that you prevent any of these Mayavadis from speaking in any of our temple and facilities. Why? Why would Prabhupada make such a request? because it is very insidious. This Mayavad philosophy was condemned by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mayavadi oi Krishna aparadi. Lord Chaitanya said that the Mayavadis are offenders against Lord Krishna. In another place in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a description. Mayavadi Bhashya hoy Shunale Saravanas. That if you hear the commentaries of the Mayavadis, your whole spiritual life will be sarvanash, finished. But then how did these great Vaishnavacharyas like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Baladevi Vidyabhusana, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Oh, very nice. Neil Sharma found the exact verse. Prabhu kahe, Mayavade Krishna aparadi, Brahma Atma Chaitanya kahe niravadi. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, Mayavadi impersonalists are great offenders unto Lord Krishna. Therefore, they simply uttered the words Brahman, Atma, and Chaitanya. And before I pass the floor back, the mic back to Vishwakarma, I'm going to read one or two quotations from the Lilamrita Review. Last time we were on page number 2. This is section number 1 of the Lilamrita Review, page number 2 in the bottom. The associate of the Supreme Lord is also described as Maha Bhagavata. Everywhere he immediately sees manifest the form of the Supreme Lord. Purport. Due to deep ecstatic love for Krishna, the Maha Bhagavata sees Krishna right there. Sees Krishna everywhere and nothing else. This is confirmed in Brahma Samhita, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena, from Madhya Lila 8-274. On page number 3, Srila Prabhupada says, Srila Prabhupada has directly stated his status as a Maha Bhagavata. Such neophytes unable to appreciate the exalted service of the advanced devotee try to bring the Maha Bhagavata to their platform. We experience such difficulties in propagating this Krishna consciousness all over the world. Unfortunately, we are surrounded by neophyte godbrothers. They simply try to bring us to their platform. From the Nectar of Instruction, page 64. His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada was never affected by the material modes of nature, which include the contaminations of happiness and distress, heat and cold, hunger and thirst, etc. His body was not made of the material elements. When he sometimes said otherwise, that was to accomplish his own purposes in the advancement of his disciples. His body was spiritual. And then there's a letter from Srila Prabhupada to Madhusudana Das on February 1, 1968. Yes, the analogy concerning the spiritual body of the Sadguru is acceptable, but not in the material sense. In the material world, the gold box and the gold-plated box may be different in price, but in spiritual world, there is no distinction. There, the gold box and the gold-plated box are the same. The associate of the Lord, when he comes to this material world, either as Nitya Siddha or Sadhana Siddha, does not have to experience and tolerate pain. He is of the same quality as Lord Krishna in this regard. Then the quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3. Even though he appears to be in the material world, he is not affected by the miseries of the material world. Those who are sadhavaha or devotees engaged in Krishna consciousness in the transcendental service of the Lord do not feel the contamination of material miseries, whereas those who are not devotees in Krishna consciousness actually feel the miseries of material existence. From Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 25, Text 24. Back to you in the studio, Vishwakarma Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. You could continue on. There's never a problem when Yashodanandana Prabhu speaks to all of us. It's quite educational. And the proper use of speech. And Prabhupada, Nilashama, you see in this purport, I was thinking about this purport today, text 19 from the Bhagavad Gita, and how succinctly the philosophy is explained in one purport. And Prabhupada says this is true eloquence, that you can present something in very few words, and it gives a world of meaning to a person that's sincerely interested in spiritual life. Prabhupada uses it, Shruta, this succinct Vedic teaching in one verse, in one sentence, you can get a world of understanding. And Prabhupada was so expert in presenting the philosophy and demonstrated to us his position as a pure devotee. This is by practical example. And the purports in this purport today, he talks about a devotee doesn't care for residential facility. When Prabhupada was in New York City, did he care where he was, Nilesh? No. He lived in an office with no kitchen and no bathroom. He had a sink. Can you imagine a person trying to survive? But he didn't care. It didn't make a difference. And we saw when you go through the diary, you get a realization of how practically Prabhupada was positioned as a pure devotee. And so these verses, this purport demonstrates it, because he didn't care for residential facility. He could have lived under a tree. He may sometimes live in a palatial building. Prabhupada, that happened for him. Did he care? He was not attracted to neither. He was called fixed because he's fixed in his determination and knowledge. We may find some repetition in these descriptions, but this was Prabhupada's good qualification. And most interestingly here in the purport, he talks about silence. This is the principle of use of proper speech, not to remain silent without speaking like the Buddhists or some of these groups do, but don't speak nonsense. And this is a world of nonsense, opinion. I call it the opinionators. And that's all they do is blab, talk. Here we have it. What is this? Essential truth spoken concisely is true eloquence. Yes. And this is a very important principle. We're going to let's also go over to Nectar of Instruction, Rupa Goswami. And we'll read a section from there. First one must control his speaking power. Every one of us has the power of speech. As soon as we get an opportunity, we begin to speak. If we do not speak about Krishna consciousness, we speak about all sorts of nonsense. Oh yeah, and it's hard to listen to people because that's all. A lot of times, I'm not saying I'm anywhere advanced, but I am surrounded with people that talk nonsense. Most of the people I know. And they're talking about business and politics and music and this and that. The speaking of the toad, however, simply invites the snake. Please come here and eat me. So time is the snake of time. It is coming to kill us. Nevertheless, although it is inviting death, the toad goes on croaking. Oh yeah. Can't help but talk nonsense. And you have to tolerate. You have to listen to it. Because you don't want to always tell them, okay, stop talking nonsense. You're driving me crazy. You listen, I nod. Oh yeah, okay. Because you have to know when to speak and what to say. The materialistic man and the impersonalist Mayavadi philosophies may be compared to the croaking of frogs. They're always speaking nonsense. Always. And thus inviting death to catch them. Controlling speech, however, does not mean self-imposed silence. The external process of mauna, as Mayavadi philosophers think, or Buddhists. Silence may appear helpful for some time, but ultimately it proves a failure. Yeah. Well, most people in this society, the opinionators, they can't shut up. The meaning of controlled speech, conveyed by Rupa Goswami, advocates the positive process of Krishna Katha. Engaging the spiritual process in glorifying the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. The tongue can thus glorify the name, form, and qualities and pastimes of the Lord. The preacher of Krishna Katha is always beyond the clutches of death. This is the significance of controlling the urge to speak. Be careful what you say. There are two ways to control the tongue. By speaking about Krishna according to the message coming from Prabhupada and eating prasadam. Taking the food, the remnants offered to Krishna through the disciplic succession. It's very interesting, Pure Angelo. The question that we have sometimes, is the food that's offered through the bogus disciplic succession of these so-called self-appointed gurus prasadam? No, it's not. It has to be followed according to Prabhupada's teachings, not concocted. It's not prasadam. So, speaking about Krishna, the essential, taking prasadam, purifying the tongue, and this will be the source of liberation for the conditioned soul. That simple. Sarira avidyajal jyotendriya taikal. This material body is a place of ignorance. And we know that our friend in Mexico is experiencing that, the ignorance of the body as he's seriously affected by his cancer. The other day he sent me, I vomited 10 times last night. Oh. Liquid beauty, that's what it is. This body is not the self. It is simply a vehicle to enjoy and suffer in this material world. And liberation comes by controlling the senses, beginning with the tongue. Taking prasadam and speaking the essential and chanting Hare Krishna every day. Not when you think about it. Every day, 16 rounds. That's our business here. All of us chant. It's the first thing we should do. Get up and chant. That's the first thing I think about when I wake up. Okay, let's go downstairs to the temple room and start my rounds. That's the first thing. And then after that, I get a chance to speak. Unless people are calling me up. So at any rate, Krishna consciousness is simple for the simple, difficult for the crooked. Like I said, Rama Raghava, this thing that went on yesterday in America, where this Mr. Z, I call him, from Ukraine showed up, and they had this meeting, and everybody's talking about it. Politicians. It's like lawyers, for example. There's a joke amongst lawyers. How do you know a lawyer is lying, Ram Raghava? And here's the punchline. Every time he opens his mouth. Well, this is, never trust a politician. Never. You don't know what the facts are. And the same with bogus gurus. Never trust them because they're lying. And every time they open their mouth, they're misrepresenting our philosophy. And that's why we speak up. Not because we're fault-finding people. Yesterday, this guy got on the chat 2 days ago and started saying, well, how come you always mention these people? We didn't mention their names at all. Nobody. We just talked about the principle. And he fault-finded us. Thank you very much, brother, for coming by. Obviously, you do not listen. You're a mental speculator and disturbed by the misinformation that's come into your ears from other people. Yashodanandana Prabhu, if you could continue.
Very important instructions. When we carefully read Srila Prabhupada's books, for example, in A Nectar of Instruction in text number 4, there's a whole series of paragraphs where Srila Prabhupada cautions, he warns the devotees about the danger of associating with Mayavadis. Now, this is a highly contentious issue because some people feel that they can associate with Mayavadis and think that it will not be affected. We don't associate with Mayavadis to get any kind of certificate from them, recognition from them, or any kind of association from them. This is a very important point. Now, we've had the opportunity personally to spend some time in India in preaching to these individuals, and the level of confusion and level of misunderstanding of these people is very, very high. That is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, here we go. Here's the actual text from Nectar of Instruction, text number 4. In this regard, thank you very much, Ram Raghava Prabhu. In this regard, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura warns all devotees engaged in broadcasting the Krishna consciousness movement not to speak to the impersonalist Mayavadis who are always determined to oppose such theistic movements. The world is full of Mayavadis and atheists, and the political parties of the world take advantage of Mayavada and other atheistic philosophies to promote materialism. Sometimes they even back a strong party to oppose the Krishna consciousness movement. The Mayavadis and other atheists do not want the Krishna consciousness movement to develop because I'm lost here. It educates people in God consciousness, such as the policy of the atheists. There is no benefit in feeding a snake milk and bananas because the snake will never be satisfied. On the contrary, by taking milk and bananas, the snakes simply become more poisonous. Kevalam vishavardhanam. If a snake is given milk to drink, its poison simply increases. For a similar reason, we should not disclose our minds to the serpent Mayavadis and Karmis. Such disclosures will never help. It is best to avoid association with them completely and never ask them about anything confidential, because they cannot give good advice. Nor should we extend invitation to Mayavadis and atheists, nor accept their invitations. For by such intimate intermingling, we may become affected by their atheistic mentality. Sangat sanjayati kamaha. It is the negative injunction of this verse that we should refrain from giving anything to or accepting anything from the Mayavadis and atheists. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has also warned, Vishayara anna koile dushtohe man. By eating food prepared by worldly people, one's mind becomes wicked. Unless one is very advanced, he is unable to utilize everyone's contribution to further the Krishna consciousness movement. Therefore, on principle, one should not accept charity from the Mayavadis or atheists. Indeed, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has forbidden devotees to associate even with ordinary men who are too addicted to material sense gratification. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Sorry, yeah. Profound. It's like Prabhupada sent me a letter, as some of you know I mentioned before. Do not associate with my godbrothers. Don't read their books, and had nothing to do with them. He also sent a letter to Rupanuga in 1974, I believe, and gave an extensive explanation of how he did not want us, his disciples, to associate with his godbrothers. Because association is like a crystal stone. You have bad association, you'll become affected. You have good association, you will become enlivened and inspired to spread the message of truth to other people, not misinformation. This type of thing is going on. It's rampant. It's like a disease. It's like cancer. It spreads through the body. It kills you. You get association with these people. I personally don't, all of you know what I say. And I'm not going to repeat it because people get upset. Oh, you're being so strict. You're being too harsh. No, I'm not. You have to be able to qualify in your own minds, everyone, who you should associate with and who you shouldn't. People used to come in. When I used to sell BMWs years ago, struggling as a grihasta. The first thing you would do when a person come in, you'd qualify them. You'd ask them, well, do you have the money? You have to, if a person wants to buy a $150,000 car from you, you better find out if they have the money. If they don't have the money, there's the door. Qualify people before you give them your association. Spend some time, evaluate what they're about, listen. You don't have to talk and prove how smart you are. You listen. You listen to them, you get an understanding, and if it's not according to the principles of this philosophy that we're propagating, the legacy of Srila Prabhupada, then don't associate with them. Get rid of them out of your life. And let's go for the people that are sincere, that want to take this mission up. We'd sooner have 30 good people in this group, or 50 people, or 60, or 100 people, than thousands of people that don't get it. It's a waste of time. Dharma Bhavana, in Dallas, Texas, you're with us. Go ahead.
When?
You're there. Go ahead. Where are you?
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Face
Let me
is
see
off.
what-
You just disappeared. Yeah,
There we
go
go.
ahead. Get your face.
Hare Krishna. Nice class as usual. Just like we were speaking about the idea of Mayavad towards the end. And once I was in the association, I asked one person, I said, what is the spiritual world? And the comment was, oh, the spiritual world is symbolic. And I come to understand through this that the Mayavadi people have this strong tendency to actually hate and be very envious of Krishna's personality, his beauty, his form. And it's really a terrible, toxic thing that it's understandable how the statements are there. If you hear from the Mayavadis, it'll ruin your spiritual life. Very, and kind of on a different note, my wife showed something where they had this large building, kind of like a 50, 75 room apartment or nursing home. And the invitation was any Prabhupada disciples could come live there. And I thought it was in America or Canada. And then, but apparently it's in India. And my first question was, I was going to ask, are the second and third generation Prabhupada disciples also welcome? And then I was going to ask, is this some institutional project or independent? Come to know, it's like kind of northern India, that kind of this kind of projects they have in North India. And I was just wondering, how can you have some place where devotees live together when there's so many divisions among Prabhupada disciples around the world? And so anyway, that was kind of what I saw then. And my wife told me, oh, this is not from Canada, the anti-vax. It's actually from people in northern India. They invite Prabhupada disciples to come live there. And so I just thought about these questions, and it was kind of amazing how even though we love all the Vaishnava devotees, it's very hard for many devotees to coordinate and cooperate with each other, especially if they're living in the same building. Anyway, just my short comments. Thank you, Haribol.
Very interesting comment, and thank you for that and your wife, because I wanted to mention that we are expanding, and our friend Kanta Prabhu is on the class. He comes on an ongoing basis. I had the chance to meet him last week, and he's planning to set up a agricultural project in Trinidad, which, and he's a very, let's say, fixed Prabhupada disciple. And he's creating an atmosphere. He's in a position to be able to do this. So that's expanding. And we have Ron Singh also in, I'll get him to speak, in Oroville, California. He's already bought a building, and we're looking for people that are interested in working in our mail order department there and taking up service there. And we have Vijaya Pandit in Italy, who's aspiring to set up a preaching center. So we need help for him. So if anybody wants to assist him. And we have Krishna Kishore in Mexico. Yes. And he's set up. And I'm also setting up a headquarters in Mexico moving forward, a world headquarters at Casa Goloka. So step by step. Rome wasn't built in a day. Some people are ready to step up and go ahead. And these other people, what are you going to do? They're not inviting us. They won't invite me and Yashoda. Oh no, we don't want them. They're offenders. Okay, good. We don't want to go. In fact, it'd be hard for me and Yashoda to accept any invitation from anybody, because it takes an effort. And our effort is already established in this sadhana program and all of our group. Ron Singh, maybe you could mention briefly, or you're here, about Oroville and what your plans are there. Hare Krishna. Are you on the car?
Okay.
Yeah, we can
In the
hear
car,
you.
yes.
That's
Okay,
okay.
good. Okay. What's going on? There's many scopes of different services that can be done, because it's in its initial stage, meaning that, we have a building, we have a nice facility, we have the river there, we have the post office there. Many good things are happening. There's lots of, there's the college there, there's a Indian community as well. So many things can happen. It's just up to the individual person to facilitate all this. So the facility is already there, and they can set up a book table. They said yesterday I was investigating into opening a book club into the local colleges to start getting in there and distributing Prabhupada's books. So he gave me direction on how to do that, and then we're talking with the local church, the Western crowd. We want to attract Western devotees. So I was talking to the local senior people who are there's like 60 churches there. So,
Whoa.
and 60. So the population is about 20,000. So they're saying that the older people are just getting old and no young people are. So this is an opportunity for us to, give them Prabhupada's books and just have a nice relationship with them. They're favorable, very favorable towards God consciousness. We just have to get them off the bodily conception of life and then give them the right understanding. So lots of scope for preaching, and I think the books are coming as well. So the post office is there. We'll have lots of service that can be done from this, center or ashram, whatever you want to call it. So it's very close to the river. If people like to swim, the summer's coming up. So if anyone wants to come visit, they're from our online viewership. If they want to come visit for a month, few weeks, they're welcome at no cost to them. We have everything set up here. So just come and serve whichever way you can.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you very much. And I wanted to further introduce Krishna Kishore in Mexico, and he's very successful in his preaching work and the original philosophy that Prabhupada gave us. And he has over 50 devotees there who are all focused on Prabhupada Vani, not on Vapu. So it's going on, and people, all of us in this group, if you're interested in expanding your work, just pray to Krishna to help you and take a leadership role, and let's go. We have offices. We have 19 offices, you'll see at the end of our program. They're people that have volunteered to be able to distribute some books and wherever they live and try to somehow or other propagate the truth and destroy the misinformation that's being disseminated by people that are corrupt, philosophically corrupt. Ram Raghava, I see you've got a section up here about from YT Livestream, a question, Bolo. Maybe you could give us an insight on this. I'm trying.
Just for the information of all the gathered devotees, there are 13 people watching on YouTube live stream.
Oh.
And one of them is Bolo, and he's asked the question, we'll enjoy to understand better the point of Nitya Baddha and Nitya Siddha and how it relates to Sadhana Siddha.
Okay, Yashodanandana Prabhu, do you see that question? See here?
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
That's a very important point. With regard to Srila Prabhupada, there was a letter that he wrote in 1970 where he clearly described his position as a Nitya Siddha, where the Nitya Siddha is one who comes from the spiritual world to preach and bring the message of Krishna consciousness to this world, who is never contaminated by the influence of the material world. And Prabhupada wrote in that one letter that there has never been any portion of my life where I was ever forgetful of Krishna. Mm-hmm. And Prabhupada said he never engaged in any sinful activities, even though being born in an aristocratic family, he had plenty of opportunity to do that. So Srila Prabhupada was in a pretty unique position. Because when we look at Srila Prabhupada's life, and people sometimes, I've seen these things on the internet, of some people who look at Srila Prabhupada and they can't quite comprehend how a person is a pure devotee. But in order to understand this, a person has to follow the process, has to chant Hare Krishna, follow the principles, and engage in the process of bhakti. Otherwise, it's very difficult to comprehend the position of a pure devotee. Now, just like Prabhupada gives the example, just like when the Hudson River merges with the Atlantic Ocean. Okay, here we go. The symptoms, this is from a 1969 correspondence, a letter to Mukunda, New Vrindavan, 10th of June, 1969. And thank you very much, Neil Shyama Prabhu. We'll read this here. Your next question, whether the spiritual master was formerly a conditioned soul. Actually, a bona fide spiritual master is never a conditioned soul. There are three kinds of liberated persons. They are called 1, sadhana siddha, 2, kripa siddha, and 3, nitya siddha. Sadhana siddha means one who has attained perfection by executing the regulative principles of devotional service. Kripa siddha means one who has attained perfection by the special mercy of Krishna and the spiritual master. And nitya siddha means one who was never contaminated. The symptoms of nitya siddha is that from the beginning of his life, he is attached to Krishna and he is never tired of rendering service to Krishna. So we have to know what is what by these symptoms. But when one is actually on the siddha platform, there is no such distinction as to who is sadhana, kripa, or nitya siddha. When one is siddha, there is no distinction what is what. Just like when the river water glides down to the Atlantic Ocean, nobody can distinguish which portion was the Hudson River or some other river. Neither is there any necessity to make any such distinction. Actually, every living entity is eternally uncontaminated, although he may be in the material touch. This is the version of the Vedas. Asanga ayam purusha. The living entity is uncontaminated. Just like when there is a drop of oil in water, you can immediately distinguish the oil from the water, and the water never mixes with the oil. Similarly, a living entity, although in material contact, is always distinct from the matter. Very clear instruction. Let's go down a little bit. Oops. Can we get that screen back up, Neil Shyama Prabhu? I was trying to see the next one down. Okay, this was a letter to Mr. Tamal Krishna, Los Angeles, 21st of June, 1970. Krishna philosophy is understood and it is stated in the Vedas, Yasya Devi Parabhaktir Yata Devi Tata Guru. Tasyate Kachita Hyartaha Prakasante Mahatmanaha. One who has got unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord and similar faith in his spiritual master, to him only the imports of Vedic knowledge become revealed. A spiritual master is always liberated in any condition of his life. He should not be mistaken as ordinary human being. This position of a spiritual master is achieved by three processes. One is called sadhana siddha. That means one who is liberated by executing the regulatory principle of devotional service. Another is kripa siddha, one who is liberated by the mercy of Krishna or his devotee. And another is nitya siddha, who is never forgetful of Krishna throughout his whole life. These are the three features of the perfection of life. When we go towards the end of the letter, Prabhupada, let's go to the end of the letter here. Prabhupada said, the Radha Krishna deity in this family called me to meet him, and therefore last time when I was in Calcutta, I stayed in that temple along with my American disciples. Although I had immense opportunities to indulge in the four principles of sinful life, because I was connected with a very aristocratic family, Krishna always saved me, and throughout my whole life, I do not know what is illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, or gambling. So far my present life is concerned, I do not remember any part of my life when I was forgetful of Krishna. So it speaks for itself, and very clearly explains the position. Hare Krishna.
Yes, and thank you very much. We're moving to the end of the program. We're going to get Nilesh Sharma to speak for a minute in a second. But at the same time, I wanted to thank everybody for attending the program. Yes, thank you. And I see that our attendance is up. And with the YouTube broadcast and the class here, we have around 42 people. This is very good. And we like to have hundreds, but what can you do except all you can do is keep trying. And gradually and a lot of people have come and gone. They get on the bus, they get off the bus, they hop on the train, they get off the train. For whatever reasons they have, they can do whatever they want because we have independent free will to choose what to do with our time. And time is the most important asset, Michael Dillon, that we possess, especially as we get older. And the best use of time is to come to these classes. Sadhana. This is our sadhana program for every one of us. To attend these classes without fail every week and stay from the beginning to the end. Chant your rounds, offer food to Krishna and distribute prasadam to others, and carry on with your preaching work in whatever capacity you're capable of doing. And this way you will go back to home, back to Godhead, because you're following the instructions of Srila Prabhupada without deviation, without mental concoction, without mental speculation, and without wagging a stupid message out of your tongue, like a lot of these people we know. Neela Sharma, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Haribo.
I'd like to make a few points over here, what we discussed so far.
Okay, we're at the end.
One
Remember,
question was raised.
we're at 11:42, so keep going though. We're at 11:42, so
You want me to?
Keep going.
Yeah.
I'm just saying keep going,
Okay.
but just know the time. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna.
Go ahead.
So, the several points which I wanted to share is the first point which was made was about the original books. Why do we need the original books? Why do we stress so much on the original books? And I like to go back to our basics, where Prabhupada over here in a class on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 1, text 26 to 27 talks about it. And I'd like to read this part because we always sing this in the Guru Puja. Prabhupada, yes, this is the order. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitte Te Koriya Aikya. Now, Chitta means consciousness or heart. I shall do this only. Bas, my Guru Maharaj told me, I shall do this. Chitte Te Koriya Aika Arana Koriho Mane Asha. So it is not my pride, but I can say, for your instruction, I did it. Therefore, whatever little success you see, then all my God brothers, it is due to this. I have no capacity, but I took it, the words of my Guru, as life and soul. So this is fact. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitte Te Koriya Aikya. Everyone should do that. But if he makes additions, alteration, then he is finished. No addition, alteration. You have to approach Guru. Guru means the faithful servant of God, Krishna, and take his word how to serve him. Then you are successful. If you concoct, I am very intelligent than my Guru, and I can make addition or alteration, then you are finished. So that is the only. And now sing further. Shri Guru Charanani Rati Ese Uttamagati. So it goes on. But the idea over here is to explain what the necessity, why the necessity to read the untainted books. Another part which I would like to talk about was Mayavad philosophy. Why do we need to avoid Mayavad philosophy? Prabhupada again here talks about Canto 1, Chapter 1, verse 20 in Srimad Bhagavatam.
Okay.
The doctrines of anthropomorphism and zoomorphism are never applicable to Sri Krishna or the personality of Godhead. Now, what are these two words called anthropomorphism and zoomorphism? I've gone to Perplexity, which is an AI platform. What is the meaning of anthropomorphism and zoomorphism? When you go to a Mayavad person, he'll say like, oh, I'm God, you are God, everything is God.
Okay.
This is what we talk about imposing. Anthropomorphism is the attribution of human traits or emotions or intentions to non-human entities. In order to understand what Krishna says himself in the Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma cha me divyam yo me veti tattvataha. So if you don't understand his transcendental appearance and you try to impose your human tendency on him, then how are you going to make progress in bhakti? What is zoomorphism? Zoomorphism is the opposite process, attributing animal characteristics to non-animal entities like humans. Whenever we say somebody does some very grotesque thing or some very bad thing, we say, why is he behaving like an animal? This is that superimposition. So we go back is that if Prabhupada wants to tell us that the doctrines of anthropomorphism and zoomorphism are never applicable to Shri Krishna. And even our little association, if we try to kind of connect this, then we are doing great offense at the feet of Lord Shri Krishna. So we need to be very careful. These purports, these ideas are very detailed, and there is a necessity to analyze it in great detail. I would love to
Excellent.
know what Yashodanand Prabhu would like to say.
By the way,
Hare Krishna.
thank you. Very well done. We really appreciate all of this focus on truth. Yashoda, if you want to wind up with a final word before we move to the kirtan.
I think that what you've read, Prabhu, is very self-explanatory, especially the part says that if you change anything from your guru, you are finished. How many times did Prabhupada emphasize this point? Because many people will often say, oh, Prabhupada said this before, Prabhupada said that before, but we have to look at the last statements of Srila Prabhupada with regards especially to changing or editing his books. When Prabhupada says the next printing again should be the original way, that is conclusive. There's no need of speculation. There's no need of interpretation. Just return whatever mistake was made, return to the first edition, the bona fide proper first edition. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
And thank you, everybody, for attending. It's 11:48 up here in Hamilton, so we're almost at 2 hours. Our classes seem to be going on to. I apologize. Sometimes I'm trying to keep us under a timetable, but the classes do go on because of the good information that we're receiving. Is just packed with all kinds of nectar. Hey, Michael? Total nectar, and it's what better use of time than hearing in association with good devotees, Prabhupada disciples, Ram Raghava? It's blissful. It's ecstatic. And I wanted to mention just before we finish the talk, if there's anything that we say that may not be correct or whatever, call me up. And Ram Raghava puts my number up, 289-244-4315. Call me up and tell me you made a mistake. It's not right. Go ahead and we'll talk about it and try to resolve it in a peaceful, Krishna conscious manner. You can call Yashoda, but call me up. If you want to get a hold of us, we're always available. All of us, all of our members here, Ram Raghava and Krishna Gata and Vijaya Pandit, I'm always in touch with him. So just get a hold of us. Let's talk about it. Let's not fight. Let's try to transcend this terrible situation we're in. And where are we right now, Michael Dillon? We're in the heart of the Kali Yuga. You know it for sure. Where everybody's eating McDonald's hamburgers and French fries that are not potatoes. This is insanity. This is a world of insanity. It's not for gentlemen or gentle ladies. But we're here, and we're going to make the best use of a bad bargain. by staying Krishna conscious, Michael Dillon. Okay? Is that your agreement with me? Thank you. You look great. I love the shirt. You look good. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. We're going to move forward with the chanting of Hare Krishna, as I've been so politely corrected by my godbrother Ram Raghava, is 2 minutes and 54 seconds of the chanting of the holy name. And thank you very much, everyone. Tomorrow, Srimad Bhagavatam at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll carry on with this sadhana program of Krishna consciousness with our group. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Let us offer our respectful obeisances to all the assembled Vaishnava devotees. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances. We all offer our respectful obeisances to all the assembled Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desire trees who are full of compassion for the fallen souls. Thanks everybody for participating in this lively program. Thanks Vishwakarma Prabhu in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, for hosting the program or coordinating the program. Ram Raghava Prabhu and his very nice father in Atlanta, Georgia. I don't know if your father is in Atlanta, Georgia, but I know he was here earlier. And we have Neil Shama Prabhu in Florida, Pierangelo in Switzerland, Vijay Pandit Prabhu in Italy. Come va Prabhu? Tutto bene, molto bene. Rupa Goswami Prabhu in Mumbai, India, and everybody participating in the program. Thank you so much. Please join us tomorrow morning for more lively discussion. And not to forget, Rochisa Devi Mataji in Montreal, Canada, where they're still clearing the snow. I saw a picture today. They have these massive trucks trying to clear the snow. But she's transcendental to all these miseries. She's always fixed on Prabhupada and Krishna. It's always nice to have you, Mataji. C'est très beau de te voir toujours. And everybody, please come back tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock a.m. from Srimad Bhagavatam, the wonderful discussion between Narada Muni and Vyasadeva from Srimad Bhagavatam. Tomorrow I have to leave at 8 o'clock a.m. my time. I'll be there for the first part of the program, but rest assured, between Vishwakarma Prabhu, Rupa Goswami, Ram Raghava, and Neil Sharma and Bhakti Singh, we are all in very good hands. Hare Krishna, all glories to His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.